Hey, family, listen. I want to talk to you today about the discipline of study, the spiritual discipline of study. The only way to know the truth is to study truth. Study about truth. Study to find truth. The only way to replace old thought is by studying new thought. The only way to replace old and destructive habits is to study and begin to operate and practice in new habits. But the only way you can learn new habits is you must study new habits. Simple. But Paul says in Romans, we are transformed by the renewing of our minds. And how do you renew your mind? You study about being different than you were before. You study the opposite of what you did before. As a man thinks, so is he. Your think can change when you study to change your think. Okay, let's put it this way. Study is not just reading. I know a lot of times we think studying is just reading a book and what does the book say, and then we go. Study is not just reading. Study is not just thinking about what you've been reading or what you've read. Study is a part of study is watching and processing. A part of studying is having conversation. A part of studying is going out and trying and practicing what you just learned. Most times, if you play sports, you will get a playbook, but you'll also learn a whole lot more from being on the practice field and watching those before you who did it, the coach or other players, veterans. And you study their movements, you study their habits, you watch it, and you go back and you practice it. So study involves repetition, study involves practice, study involves realizing that practice does not make perfect, but it creates fresh, practiced options. Practice doesn't make perfect, but it does create fresh, practice options. So therefore, practice will give you options in perfecting what you've practiced. Now, what you study shows. Hear me. Whatever you study shows, because that's what you show and tell. If you say you're studying to be quiet, but you're always talking, then that means you're not having effective study time being quiet. What you study shows. If you say I'm studying to be honest, but you're still lying, that means you're not really studying honesty. You're studying trickery. That's how we know that kids they learn cussing not from school but home. Because they go to school and they cuss at school, or they come to church and they cuss at church. They didn't learn it there, they learned it elsewhere. Why? Because that's what they've been watching, that's what they've been studying. Richard Foster gives us 4 steps of study, and then I'll let you get back to your day. Number 1, repetition. Repetition ingrains habits and channels the mind in the specific direction of what we've been studying. So what you do, you watch it, and then you repeat it, and then you repeat it. You read it, and then you go and you read it again, and you read it again, and you get it ingrained in your mind. You get it ingrained in your heart. You get it ingrained in your spirit. Thy word have I hidden in my heart. I bind your word as an amulet around my neck. I'm in repetition. I'm looking at it over and over again, and I'm getting it in the channels of my mind so I can learn it. Study also not only takes repetition, but it also needs concentration. Concentration centers the mind. It focuses all attention on what is being studied. If you cannot listen to music and focus, then you got to cut the music off. And in order to grow, you have to concentrate. And so growth means eliminating all distractions so I can track, so I can get to my desired end. So study is repetition. Study is concentration. Step of study is concentration. Another step of studying is to comprehend or comprehension. I must be sure that I understand what I say I'm studying. I gotta do my research. And so if I find a word that I don't quite get and I look at the definition and then the definition is not quite clear, then I'll find find definitions in the definition that I found the definition in. And so I'll do my research. I'll keep learning. I'll keep figuring out. If I'm in love with someone and I love them, I'm going to study them so I can love them the way they deserve to be loved. And so I'll research them. I'll ask them questions. I'll find out about them. I'll watch them. I'll watch their habits. I'll learn them so I can understand them. And then finally, I'll have some reflection time. Reflection, so what I've repeated, what I've concentrated on, what I've learned, I've comprehended, I reflect, how do I fit in it? How does my life fit in what I've studied? How does my life effect, and infect what I've studied? How does what I've studied affect, effect, and infect my life? Am I reflecting my study? So I want to challenge you during this Passion Week, during this Holy Week. Take some time and begin to study God's word. Begin to study your life. Begin to study the people around you. Begin to study your loved ones so you can love them the better and you can treat them the way they deserve to be treated. You can love them in their language, the way they deserve and need to be loved. Take some time to begin a lifetime